Okay, good evening. This is day number 158 of making little videos to describe a day or thought. The life of a schizophrenic. My name is Dominic. I experience schizophrenia, but I do not believe I'm diseased or crazy. I believe I am subject to what NATO calls cognitive war and what the Joint Chief of Indian Intelligence describes as neurostrike weaponry. In day 17 of these videos, I express why I call myself schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. In day 45, I give the reason why I make these videos in the first 3 minutes of an intro. And on day 138, I express or symptoms that I have as a schizophrenic, all the kooky symptoms. I may seem intelligent, or I may seem maybe dumb, but I may seem sane, but I do experience some crazy, kooky symptoms of schizophrenia. And like I say, I think it's a reality to be experienced. Okay, so I have a couple of some thoughts of a day in the life of schizophrenic, so I share some thoughts that I have today. Thought that I had today was about AI and like the Darwinian world order and how for a long time, we were in America and in Western Civ and in general, the global economy and everything, were made to compete with each other. The masses are made to compete with each other for scraps, and that share of the pie is becoming less and less and less. Meanwhile, AI has entered the picture, and now we're not just competing against each other for resources, we're competing against AI and robots for resources. And you would think like, okay, if AI can do the jobs, there would be like some sort of movement among politicians and the greater general society that says, well, if AI can do the jobs, maybe we should have a dividend. And I think the only person I've really heard talk about that, I think, is Andrew Yang. I don't know. It just seems like we're being distracted by all this other crazy stuff when like that's like the glaring thing going on the world's stage for the world economy or whatever. And I don't know, maybe the AI is overblown. Like Ben Affleck came out and said that the people selling the idea that AI is going to revolutionize society are all these AI companies, and maybe that's the case. But it does seem to be that it's going to take a lot of jobs and it's going to do a lot of jobs. It has the capacity to do a lot of jobs or work that it takes to run society, and so you would think like, well, maybe we should go in on that, but like, I don't know, it seems like people seem to make it seem like it's unserious to want AI dividend for the masses. Some sort of if the AI does the jobs of people, then maybe the masses should have. Why can't society have some of that? Some of the retain the resources rather than competing against AI. Okay, so I said, why can't a society have common goals to achieve its objectives of needs and wants of the society rather than being subjected to gamesmanship? Like, just why does society have to make everything a game rather than having a common collective goal to meet the collective needs of society? I've never understood that. It's they teach you about team sports when you're young. They get you to they atom they get you atomized. First, you're competing for your spot on your team sport, but then you're on the team, and then all of a sudden you're working on a common goal and everything to achieve something, and but then you're in groups of people competing against other groups or whatever, and then you go back out into the world, and then all of a sudden you're in the nations competing against nations or whatever. And I always think that's like the instructional when they get us into sports, but it was like there is something about a common goal if we could take that out of it and apply it to the general structure of society and restructure society so that we think about things with common goals, I don't I think it would help us. But yeah, that's what I was thinking today, and I think that a lot. Sometimes I think I would love why. Okay, so uh, one of the things they're doing today was reminding me of old style harassment that I used to get in Southern California, like around like San Diego and Orange County and stuff, and even in LA or whatever. Just they actually put it on steroids during the 20 teens with me or whatever. But like they tried to do subtle things that drive me crazy, like subtle psychological things or whatever. Like people like roll their eyes at me, like they look at me and they have this face of disgust as soon as they see me. Like that's the ugliest, pathetic person they've ever seen or something. And that happens to me quite a bit. And I don't know if it's related to the Cesar Chavez stuff, which is also like they're trying to make me Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez at the same time. It's like it's designed to kind of like it's they're it's all like part of a cognitive war kind of stuff. And you know uh anyways, some of the stuff that I read about that was kind of crazy. I don't want to go into it because I haven't spent a lot of time on it, but it did sound kind of crazy. But in some respects, the way people are responding to Cesar Chavez, I guess I'll share this. I don't know if I want to share, but it seems a little bit different than the way people responded to Trump. And so, yeah. Okay. Anyways, so I was gonna say that sometimes I think, why would I love anyone in society when society treats me like I'm genetically inferior or some sort of science experiment, psychological, political science experiment? And it's like I'm supposed to find love in that situation. It's really bizarre, and I don't know if I can go about like my general life without somebody respecting me and be like, "Oh, you are a sane person. Yeah, I think what you say, the abuses you received happened to you. That is not good, or yeah, it's characteristic of this society that does those kind of things to people, and it's not right, and blah 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 blah." But I've never had anybody say that, and so I guess I'm saying that now because of the Dolores Huerta thing and stuff, and so uh, anyways, yeah, okay. All right, in day 104, I talk about Trump possibly being an op to distract from the genocide in Palestine. Like, Trump is like, he kind of blacks out the media about everything and everything. And it seems like maybe this war in Iran is a way to kind of fuse mentation about the genocide. Like, Israel was kind of becoming like a pariah, like on the scene, saying like they genocided Palestinians and they went way overboard and everything. And now it's like they're almost like trying to attach all the wars in the Middle East to Iran with a nuke. And so they're saying they're almost like trying to justify everything with like, well, Iran attacks its neighbors and Iran has a nuke or whatever. And so everything's justifiable because it's all about that nuke. And uh, in subtle ways, I think they're trying to maybe do that. So also, like I say, the spectacle of violence maybe uh, is designed to distract us from other glaring problems that we have as a society, and if they can create a war and capture people's imagination in the war, and then try to unite people around Trump with the war or something, or like make the fight about the war, and change the narrative. Kind of obviously, like I said that before, but it just seems like maybe they're trying to erase what the motive for all the genocide of the past, I guess half decade, and they're trying to say like, well, it's obviously you have to fight wars in the Middle East because you can't let the crazy people have the nukes like Iran because they're the regime. Okay, uh, yeah, that's basically what I thought today, and I've been getting a lot of harassment based on my videos. I think maybe I don't know exactly what the purpose of the harassment is, but I could get voices a little bit. I've been getting some harassment, like I say, like old style harassment, and so I guess I'll just share that out. I don't know if it's spectacle, like schizophrenic at the center of the world war. Let's do these like harassment things on him for the fun of it. I already did all. I feel like I paid my dues with that uh, for a heavy way for about 5 to 6 years, and then throughout the first Trump presidency, everything he said was like done to like try to get people to hate me, and it was all manipulations and gaslighting and things like that. Like, and he was trying to pretend like he was my big daddy protector, but he was really getting people to hate me and lie about and just use broken thoughts in my head for his weird agendas and stuff. And so, and then, like I say, people didn't like me during that time, and everywhere I went, people hated me and stuff. And so, and it was all because he's a psycho. And all right, so I have one more thing I want to share today of thought that I had, and it is basically okay. So, with the advent of the anti-immigration push in this country in the last 12, 15, 20 years or whatever, particularly surrounding 9/11 and stuff, it seems like right wing Americans like to go around the world. They like to they run international businesses. They go into other people's countries. They vacation in other people's countries and cultures. They even live amongst other cultures and languages, and they have no problem doing this. And it's really not a big deal to them. They do it, and they run their businesses, and they run their empire and the imperial world order of the America, and they even run wars in other countries and with in conjunction with a bunch of countries around the world with different cultures and languages. But as soon as people from other cultures or languages move to the imperial center and accrue some amount of democratic power in the imperial center, all of a sudden the different culture or the different language that they have becomes a big, massive problem. I was going to use the effing word, but I didn't want to say it. But like it just becomes a big, massive problem to them. And it's really not about the culture or the different culture or living with a different language. Because, like I say, right wing business, international business Americans and capitalists go all over the world and conduct businesses and live amongst other cultures all over the world. And they have no problem doing it. But like when it comes back to America, all of a sudden they can't do it. Oh, they can't live amongst another culture. They live their own culture. And they're really just trying to manipulate the underclass that doesn't leave America. And they're trying to manipulate them to pit the two bottom classes against each other. I know what they're doing. Okay, so it's like, anyways, uh, it's not about the culture. It really isn't about the culture. It's really about the power, and it's about those people from those other countries immigrated to America, and they started to accrue some democratic power as immigrants, and a voting bloc or whatever, and that became a big problem, and they didn't want to share power from the imperial center, and so and in a lot of respects, it's like it's often white power. It's not totally white power because sometimes it's you know it's people that are adjacent to white power, maybe as underclass to the white supremacists, of different races, and then they get on board with the white power project or the monoculture thing. And but it's like I say, is like it's all fake. It's not the ultimately these people don't care about living amongst other cultures, and they go all around the world amongst other cultures all the time, running businesses and running wars and running uh, international agreements and stuff and policing, and they don't care about different cultures. Okay, so it's like, all right, uh, all right. That's all I wanted to say today, and so that's my thought today. And I'm going to go ahead and stop. A little news on the whole front here is we have some construction going on in the backyard, so it's kind of cool to see what the construction guys can do. I always think, like, because they work in the heat and the elements, construction guys deserve a lot of resources for their work. And so that's what I was thinking the last couple of days. That's another thought I had, and I didn't really go into it too much, but anyways, it's good to get this patio that we have in our backyard up and going, and it's gonna be nice for having nieces and nephews and grandkids and my mom and dad over, and getting out into the backyard and sitting and being amongst the outside with some shade. We've tried umbrellas and stuff, but it never really worked out that much. Okay, so I'm gonna stop. All right, goodbye.